Okay, so in this practice example, we're looking at USD CAD on the 15-minute time frame. And as we can see here we have the buyers are in control. And every step that the buyers keep breaching, we mark the territory. But like, okay, he had a breach here, and then he never made a higher high. So the line goes there, right? Breach there, and then no higher high. So that there was no higher high since then, so the line stays here, right? So the market keeps coming back down. Notice he doesn't stop at support equals resistance if I do it with this marker. He doesn't stop at support equals resistance, but comes in deeper. Okay, now in this whole phase, he makes a move, gets up to this high. Okay, I'm gonna move this around a bit. As he starts going up, breaching, goes up higher, holds, breaches. So we're gonna put this here. Goes up higher, comes down, holds, goes up higher, comes down. No higher high sequences here. Okay, no higher high, no higher high, no higher high. So if I was to say he needs to stop at support equals resistance, he doesn't at any of this one or this one. He goes through it, comes down lower, because we're working at where the buyers are still in control. They still have momentum, right? So let's watch this carefully. Here's the buyers. They pull back, they hold, so the line goes here when they breach it. Once they breach it, it's hold, hold, breach, higher high, comes down, hold, hold, breach. Okay, but now notice the difference between this breach and these breaches. There is some variations with this though, because some variations where the breaches are happening, like you can look at this and be like, okay, the market breached above this, but then you can also look at this red candle like, oh, is that a breach? Or is that just a buyer, rest, buyer, rest, buyer, rest, buyer, rest, and then as the sellers come in, the sellers is what makes a breach, basically. Okay? So when we see this in this context, it's like, okay, the buyer, blah, 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 there must be a seller in there, holding, breach. And then the buyer, big pullback buyer, big pullback buyer, big pullback buyer, okay, and then here comes the sellers. Okay? So when we're looking at this area, everything above this zone is still buyer's territory. And the guy who started it all is this guy. Okay? So first phase comes in, sellers, 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 no lower low in this miniature sellers area. Okay, I'm going to draw this across. No lower low sellers area. And then it finally gets higher, challenges that guy up there, and then he starts to turn around and make higher highs, which is like, okay, the buyers are back in control. So if that's the case, we're like, we're making slight higher highs, okay, but we're not stopping at support equals resistance. We're coming in deep, and we're making slight higher lows. Okay, extend this across. So now we're starting to get some information that, could this be a potential range? Channel, sorry. Could this be a potential channel? Because we don't know that information yet. We got touch 1, we got touch 2, we got touch 3, and we're watching as the buyers go up, pull back, go up, pull back, up, pull back, up, pull back. Now, no higher high from this red candle here. Notice, no higher high, keeps crashing back, keeps crashing back, keeps crashing back, keeps crashing back, keeps crashing back. So what did they breach? They breached this fella. We're going to drag this across. This is all still buyer's territory. And then the buy reactivates from down here. Now notice how this area down here is not as close to the bottom of the channel. But the story lines up. The story lines up as here comes a seller. Here's this little bit of rest. Here comes a seller again. No lower low. Pulls back. Seller again. No lower low. Dies. Okay? So when you're trading in something like this, you have to be aware that you don't want to activate your trades up in this area here. You want to be able to make that judgment as close to the bottom of this line as possible, to keep you away from, participating. This way you can anticipate the move. Okay? So let's take a look at some more examples. Now this was a little bit more tougher. It's a little bit more tougher, but let's go into some more examples, and you'll get the hang of how channels really form out and how we can actually gauge what's actually happening. But do you notice how channels have less of a weight than the ranges do? and you'll see they'll even have less of a weight compared to trends. So if you were to put it in a ranking sequence, okay, so we got trends, which is the strongest rank in terms of the strength of the rubber band man, right? He's the fastest, and he rests a little bit and he keeps going. That's a trend. He stops at SNRs basically, right? And then we have a channel. He runs, he rests a lot. He runs, beats his record by a little bit, he rests a lot. He runs, beats his record by a little bit, rests a lot. Okay, so that's power number one. The second most power, okay, not as strong. And then the third power is this guy is dying. He can't even beat his own records. He rests a lot as well. And that's your range. Okay, so if you were to put it in a scale of powers, we're looking at the way you treat a range is different than the way you treat a trend. We're going to go into trends in a bit. But then the way you treat a channel, there is no specific strategy to it, but rather if you just simply put in buyers and sellers concept to it, it will solve itself. Okay, does that make sense? So if you keep that in mind, you'll get an idea that channels are actually quite easy compared to identifying a trend and identifying ranges. Okay, all right, so let's keep moving. Let's go to the next example.